You didn't just go quiet. You stopped bleeding for someone who kept cutting you. That's what really happened. On the outside, it looks simple. The messages stopped, the calling slowed down, the long paragraphs ended. But inside you, it was a war. A part of you was still begging, reach out again, maybe this time they'll care. And another part of you was whispering, I can't keep doing this to myself. You didn't walk away because you stopped loving them. You walked away because loving them was starting to feel like slowly destroying yourself. And whether they see it now or not, your distance is the first time they're being forced to live with what they did, instead of hiding from it behind your constant effort. Before we go deep, let me ask you something simple. From a place of love, not pressure. If you're tired of feeling like the one who always cares more, if you're exhausted from scrolling through videos trying to make sense of why they treated you the way they did, I want you to stay close to this space. Hit subscribe, not because I'm promising magic fixes, but because you deserve to hear words that don't make you feel crazy for how much you loved. If anything I say in these first moments already feels like it's describing your heart, subscribe and stay until the end of this video. I'm going to walk you through what actually happens in their mind when you pull away, and I promise you'll see your silence in a completely different way. Let's start where you really are, not where you pretend to be when someone asks, "Are you okay?" and you just shrug it off. Your phone is probably still right beside you when you sleep. You've caught yourself unlocking it without thinking, going straight to their chat, even though you promised yourself a dozen times you wouldn't look anymore. You scroll up through old messages and feel that weird punch in your chest when you see how much effort you were giving compared to what you got back near the end. There were times they would take hours or days to reply, and you still responded within minutes because hearing from them felt like oxygen. You've written out messages you never sent. Are we good? What changed? Do you even care? You stare at those words on the screen. You feel your eyes burn a little, and then you erase them because some part of you knows that if they wanted to reassure you, they already would have. Sometimes you go back to old photos or videos with them, watching details that no one else would notice, how they smiled at you, the way they leaned in, the way you looked at them like they were the safest place in the room. And then reality crashes in. If you were so special, why does it feel like you're the only one struggling to breathe now? I know you've checked their social media. Maybe you've seen them active, posting, laughing, maybe even with someone else. You hate how your stomach drops when you see it. Hate how your mind instantly starts comparing yourself to whoever else is getting their attention now. You tell yourself, it's fine, I'm done, they can do what they want, but your chest tightens, your jaw clenches, and you find yourself rereading their last message, trying to find where exactly everything changed. That's the exhausting part, trying to locate the exact moment you lost them so you can blame yourself properly. Here's what I want you to hear. There is nothing pathetic about missing them. There is nothing weak about replaying memories in your head. You invested your heart, your time, your energy. You let them see parts of you you don't show just anyone. Of course you're hurting. Of course you're overthinking. That doesn't make you desperate. That makes you human. The only thing that was destroying you was the way you kept showing up for someone who had already started leaving mentally long before you realized it. When you finally stop texting first, it doesn't feel empowering right away. People online make it sound like you just flip a switch and suddenly you're healed and glowing and unbothered. But in real life, it feels wrong at first. Your fingers almost move on their own. You pick up your phone when something funny happens, and your first thought is still, I want to tell them, before you remember where things are now. There's this strong urge to break your own silence, to send just one more message, to check if maybe they'd respond differently this time. Your brain has been trained to believe that the solution to your pain lives inside that conversation. But underneath all that panic and craving, something deeper is happening. Your mind is starting to realize that begging for attention is not love. Your heart is slowly learning the difference between being chosen and being tolerated. Right now, you might feel abandoned, thrown away, replaced. You might be stuck in that painful loop of wondering what was wrong with you. Were you too emotional, too intense, not pretty enough, not interesting enough, not chill enough? So many of you are carrying the belief that if you had just changed yourself a little more, bent a little further, swallowed a little more pain quietly, they would have stayed. On your side emotionally, this is not just a breakup or a falling out. This is withdrawal. You were connected to them like an emotional habit. You woke up thinking of them, you went to sleep thinking of them, and your days were measured by their replies. When that suddenly stops, your entire nervous system freaks out. It's like losing a familiar noise you didn't realize you depended on until everything went quiet. You crave closure, but deep down you don't just want an explanation. You want them to make it hurt less, to rewind, to go back to who they were when they made you feel wanted. Now, on their side, things look very different, especially at the beginning. When they pulled away, stopped answering as fast, started being dry, it usually wasn't some deep, noble decision. A lot of the time, they chased freedom, ego, or distraction. Maybe they wanted to feel desired by other people. Maybe they wanted excitement without responsibility. Maybe they got uncomfortable with how strongly you felt because it reflected how little they were willing to give. So they took the easy way out, less effort, less honesty, more avoidance. At first, they often feel relieved. They don't have to reply right away. They don't have to answer tough questions like, "Where is this going?" or "Why have you changed?" They convince themselves that stepping back is no big deal, that you'll always be there, that if they ever feel like talking, they can just slide back in, and you'll accept it. They may even enjoy the attention they get elsewhere, the flirting, the novelty. That's the messy thing about people. When their ego is fed, their empathy for your pain goes temporarily blind. But this is where your silence becomes a turning point. Before, they were used to the pattern. They pull away, you chase. They give less, you give more. They respond late, you still reply quickly. You argue, you're the one who sends that final, "Can we please talk?" message. You breaking that pattern is not just a behavior change, it's a shock to their sense of control. At first, they may roll their eyes and assume they're just trying to get a reaction. They'll message again. Days pass. You don't. They wait for that familiar notification from you. It doesn't come. Over time, their thoughts start to shift from relaxed to restless. They become curious. Why haven't they texted? Are they mad? Are they talking to someone else? Did they move on? They may check your profile more than you think, even if they never like a post. They notice when you're active, when you're not. They analyze your stories, trying to read your energy. They might ask a mutual friend casually, "Hey, how are they? Haven't heard from them in a while," like it's no big deal. But it is a big deal. To them, to their ego, to that part of them that was so used to your love being on standby. The next stage for them, especially when your distance stays consistent, is comparison and discomfort. They start to feel the difference between what they had with you and what they have now with other people or with their own empty space. They remember how patient you were when they were having a bad day. They remember the way you checked on them when nobody else even noticed they were off. They remember the times you listened, really listened, when they talked about their fears, their family, their past. And now they're surrounded by surface-level attention, fun, flattering, but thin. Something feels off, even if they can't admit to themselves that what's missing is you. Your distance becomes a kind of teacher, not one you planned or designed, but a natural consequence. Without your messages, without your good mornings and "Did you get home safe?" and "How was your meeting?" they are left alone with something they've been avoiding. Themselves, their choices, their effort, their lack of effort. Your silence is like a mirror they can't fully escape. When no new message pops up from you, they are forced to see that they were never responding to you out of genuine reciprocity. They were responding out of habit, convenience, ego, or boredom. And now those reasons don't exist anymore. On your side, the distance is also teaching you, even through the pain and the slip-ups. You might have days where you feel strong, phone on, do not disturb, no checking, no searching for their name. Then a song comes on, or you see something that reminds you of them, and suddenly you're right back in your feelings. You might end up on their page again, scrolling deeper than you'd like to admit. You might even have a weak moment and send something small like, "Hope you're good," then immediately regret it. That doesn't make you a failure. Healing doesn't move in a straight line. What matters is that overall you're moving away from begging for what you deserve. Slowly, you start reclaiming pieces of yourself that you had hidden just to keep them comfortable. You remember hobbies you dropped because you were always waiting for their reply. You reach out to friends you neglected while you were emotionally consumed. You start sleeping a little better, not waking up in the middle of the night to check if they answered yet. It's imperfect, it's messy, but there's movement. Your heart is learning that peace is better than constant anxiety dressed up as love. I need you to really let this next part sink in. You were never too hard to love. You were simply too deep for someone who preferred swimming in the shallow end. You weren't asking for too much. You were asking for consistency from somebody who thought effort was optional as long as they knew you'd always be there. The moment you stop texting first, you're not playing games. You're just refusing to be the only one playing at all. There's a kind of sentence life writes for them when you pull away. This is what being taken for granted costs. They may not feel it right away, they may deny it, they may distract themselves out of thinking about it, but it catches up. Some night they'll be lying in bed, scrolling, and the usual distractions won't numb it. They'll open your chat, see all the blue bubbles full of love and concern and jokes and care, and they'll realize there's no new messages from you. That endless well they thought they could always come back to, it's not overflowing anymore. It's not even available on the same terms. Now I want you to picture a future scene with me in detail, like a movie your mind can step into. It's months from now. You're not fully healed like nothing ever happened, but your life is bigger than this heartbreak. You wake up and your first thought is not them. It's something simple like, I'm hungry, or I have things to do today. You still have low days. You still have moments where you miss them, but they don't control your entire emotional climate anymore. There's more light around you now. You're posting differently too, not to get their attention, but because you're actually living. A new cafe you tried, a selfie where you genuinely like your own face again, a quiet moment on a walk, a project you're working on. You're reconnecting with your own life. People around you notice it. Your laugh sounds less forced. Your responses are less about them and more about you. You feel yourself slowly becoming someone you're proud of again, not someone you pity. They see it. Maybe they watch your story late at night. Maybe they see you tagged somewhere with people they don't know. Maybe a friend mentions you in passing. Yeah, they're doing better now. They've changed a lot. And in that moment, something heavy sits in their chest. They thought you'd be stuck where they left you, confused, waiting, available. Instead, you're moving. Not perfectly, not quickly, but undeniably moving. They start remembering specific moments. That one night you stayed up listening to them when they felt like everything was falling apart. That time you surprised them with something small but meaningful. The way you looked at them like they mattered when they couldn't even see that in themselves. They realized they weren't just another person in your life. You were all in, and they treated all in like it was replaceable, like they could just find that anywhere. Now they're learning it doesn't work like that. Maybe they text you, maybe they don't. Maybe you get the famous, hey stranger message. Maybe you get a long, I've been thinking paragraph. Maybe it's a weak, sorry for everything, I wasn't in the right place. Or maybe their pride clamps their mouth shut and you just feel their energy watching from a distance without ever fully owning what they did. Either way, here's what really matters. Their regret, whenever and however it shows up, is not your responsibility to heal. It is not your job to make it easier on them. It's not your task to help them forgive themselves for how they treated you. Your job now is to choose what is healthy for you. Sometimes that might mean no response. Sometimes it might mean a boundary. Sometimes it might mean acknowledging what they said but not reopening the door. You're allowed to protect what you built in their absence. Your peace, your self-respect, your standards. Just because they finally see your worth doesn't mean they automatically deserve another chance to mishandle it. Your distance was never about punishing them, even if it ends up feeling that way on their side. Your distance was about saving yourself. You stepped back because loving them out loud was starting to sound like begging. And you deserve better than that. You deserve to be met halfway. You deserve someone who doesn't need you to disappear to realize they were lucky to have you. So if you're sitting there right now, phone next to you, fighting the urge to break your silence, I want you to take a breath. Put your hand over your chest for a second and just notice that it's still beating, even after everything. You are still here. You are still worthy. You are still capable of great love. Your story is not over because someone didn't know how to hold you properly. This is just one chapter where you finally stop turning the pages for someone who stopped reading long before. Let their regret be their lesson. Let your healing be your focus. And if you need a voice in your corner reminding you not to shrink, not to chase, not to sell yourself for crumbs, stay close. Subscribe if you haven't already, and come back whenever you feel yourself slipping into old patterns. We'll keep rebuilding your heart and your standards, one honest conversation at a time, until your distance is no longer a wound, but a boundary you're proud of.